Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and we got the Kubey Noble. This was sent to me by Kubey, and I am going to link this below along with all the other Kubeys I put in this video. Use the link, guys. Use the links. I really appreciate when you guys do. It really does help the channel. Now, getting into this, we got D2 blade steel, G10 scales with a steel liner lock. Nice and strong, I can't flex it at all. Nice big T8 hardware. You guys know I love to see T8 hardware. This thing does have a lot of things going for it. And a lot of people say it looks like a budget version of the Koenigarius. And it kind of does. It kind of does. So let's get into the action and we'll get into the ergos and cutting. So we have some people say they didn't like this flipper tab, but man, I like it. To me, man, I want a flipper tab that works good, and this one works great. Nice, strong detent, and because it's up so much higher than the pivot, you get a lot of leverage from it. It really kicks. Now you can push button, and it's nice and comfortable to push button because of how it's rounded and everything. Or you can just yank down like that, and either way it works great. You can hook it. You can, any way you want to do it, it works, and it flies out. And to me, I think it has a great sound. It might not come over the mic, but I like it. Decent sized stop pin. It's not big. It's not small. It's just average. And it does have a shouldering lockup, meaning the blade wraps around it. Nice strong lockup. No play any direction. Now, when you unlock it, the access to the lock bar is really good. Nice jimping, nice and comfortable. And the detent is relatively early. You can even hold it up pretty high and still past it, which I love doing that. Not that I like holding it up high or anything, but I hate when I go to unlock it and it hits the detent right there and then I'm playing with the detent. This one's so early, you never hit it. So when you unlock it, it's always past the detent. I love that. This one is nice and centered. And the drop on it is on ceramic bearings, ceramic detent ball. It is pretty smooth. I can easily just one little slap, get it down. But it's not like fall shutty or anything. But it's very smooth. Now, this little detent or divot right there, you can't use. It's too close to this. So you can't use it. I can flick it like that, but it does take a bit of effort. You can do the pinch and then slow roll, or the pinch and then slow roll. Now the ergos are pretty good. Not back here though. Like I don't think the knife was made to be held like this. I mean, you could hold it like that if you want to. It's made to be held like this. So 3 fingers, you get the 2 fingers there, 1 finger wrapping around right here, and then you have the 1 finger in the choil. It does have not a huge choil, but you have this area right here. So you're kind of pulling down, right there. And then you have the rest of the fingers holding on. So it feels nice and comfortable like that. The way the knife faces, you're not holding it like this. You're always holding it like that, which is nice and comfortable. The jimping's done very well. And it cuts great. I don't feel the clip hardly. I mean, I do feel the clip, but if you watch when I go like this, when I turn it, it's kind of like put in a place where it doesn't really bother me. Like if I just gripped it like this, yeah, I feel it, but during use, it doesn't bother me. But the cutting performance is fantastic. It cuts really nice. I measured mine about 15 thousandths behind the edge. Coupled with this nice tall flat grind, this thing cuts very, very well. It slices like a beast. So, and also I felt that I had good leverage regardless if I was push cutting it or slicing. I brought it to work a few days. I did cut up all my recycling one day, and yeah, I'm happy with the way it cuts. It cuts very well. A lot of leverage in your hand. The geometry of the blade passes through materials very well. So yeah, it does get a great score for cutting, performance, slicing, etc. Now, when we talk about push cuts, you know, even though this choil is made for you to pull backwards, I guess, kind of like pulling a trigger, when you go around right here and you want to do a push cut, you know, you see how you have this divot and everything. It really doesn't matter. I just kind of lean my finger this way and I just don't squeeze right there. I kind of squeeze with these fingers and just place my finger over this part, and it works just fine. You get a lot of leverage. Most of my grip is distributed across the spine very nicely, and it works just fine. Reverse grip is not going to be that great though. It just isn't. Now, if you had to just get behind something and snap it, I did cut some straps with it. I didn't have an issue, but just holding it like this, it's not the best, but it was fine. You know, I didn't have no issue really cutting straps. Utility cuts. Now, utility cuts, you got a good grip on this. The way this thing contours right around your palm, your fingers smash right down in there. I was holding it mostly like this, but you can get it behind there. Either way, the tip is nice and acute, and you can really see how thin the edge winds up getting. So you can also see it right there. Nice and thin, and the choil is done great. Starts here, ends here. Lots of life to sharpen. This is a great sharpening choil. A great plunge grind. Sorry, great plunge grind. But back to the utility cuts. The utility cuts are great. It's a utility cutting beast. I mean, it's basically, it's made for slicing and utility cuts, and the geometry shows it. And it's not like that the tip is so dainty that you're going to worry about it. It's not like that. It's just acute and good. And it goes through really good. You have a lot of leverage in, you know, pulling through cuts and draw cuts, you know, utility cuts. So it'll be great opening things up and tracing things out, cutting things out, you know, cutting tape, you know, anything like that. It's going to be great for that. So the utility cuts are fantastic. Now, when we get into the clip, it's a deep carry clip, and it does work pretty good. It sits pretty deep. Now, the only issue I have is that it's not in set. So, but it does work pretty good in and out of the pocket, no issues. It does have a good amount of tension, not too much though. And it does have two T6s holding it on, and it's also reversible. So it is good for the lefties. So and it's basically the same aside from the liner, you know, from left and right. So this might be a great knife for lefties, but the clip worked just fine in and out of the pocket. It wasn't too much of an issue. I did hit the spot where it's screwed in at, which we'll talk about in a second, but it really wasn't that bad. Getting into the steel. So D2 steel, I think for this price, this is a great buy. I don't mind this at all. I've gotten good edge retention from it. D2. Now, as much as I'm not a fan of it for higher priced knives, I am not opposed to it for knives in this price range. You can get good edge retention from it. It is, you know, okay toughness. It's not the easiest for everybody to sharpen. I think it's easy. I personally prefer to sharpen it with a lower grit. Sometimes it can take a polish, but it's usually better with a lower grit. It does tend to get slick a lot of times with a higher end or with a higher polish. So I personally like to keep it under 1200 grit. 600 to 800 grit is my favorite edge for D2, and in that case it takes a nasty sharp edge. I've sharpened a ton of D2, and this one feels like it's done pretty well. I've had quite a bit of Kubey's D2, and I really have, you know, not really too many complaints. It's, you know, it's decent, and for the price range, you know, I think it's a great steal for the price range. So I think they could have gotten or did, you know, because they do have OS 10 also. I think that would have been just as good. Now, it's not going to be as stain resistant as the OS 10. So, you know, you're going to want to make sure you keep it clean, keep it dry, oil it, but you should do that with all your steels. So, you know, keep up with it, keep an eye on it, and you should be just fine. But yeah, I don't think that's a problem in this price range. And yeah, and like I said, good edge retention. I've only stropped this one twice and honed it once, and it's still very sharp. It's going to need an edge here pretty soon, but as it should. So sharpening choil is really nice. They did do a great plunge grind. The plunge grind ends about right here, so they gave you a lot of life, which, man, amazing blade shape grind. And with the grind and all of the details with this blade, this is a great tool. You know, the D2 is good too. Now, they used to have this in a hollow grind. I don't think they make those versions anymore. Man, I almost wonder if they should have just kept the, I'm not saying that this is bad because this thing's a slicing beast, but you know, I think that's cool, man. I love me some good hollow grinds. But I'll be honest though, this thing has such good geometry that I'm happy with it the way it is. You know, I don't, you know, they did do good geometry on this thing, so I'm happy. The build quality is really good on it. They have nice standoffs. It's very strong and durable. Like, I can't get any flex out of it, which I do like. It does feel very solid while also staying extremely light because of all the milling. You know, it does have a good amount of milling, but not too much. Not too much to where I feel like it's fragile. And like I said, these standoffs make it feel very durable, which I like. So a lot of great things here. Only a couple negatives. The one major bad that I found on this is I do have some detent lash. And I don't like detent lash. Now, it's not crazy. For this budget, it's not that big of a deal, but it does have a little bit. You can see it. Now, I talked to a couple other people that have this knife, and they don't have that issue at all. So it's possibly just mine. So, and that happens usually because the detent hole is just slightly bigger than the ceramic detent ball. Not that big of an issue. Now, the next thing is this clip. You know, I did have times where my seam of my pants came up and it hit right there. And, you know, all I had to do was adjust and then it would sink into the top of the clip. But it would have just been nice for them to inset this clip inside there because I really don't want it to be taller. You know, because I don't want it to be uncomfortable in the hand, you know, and then the taller they make a clip, the more chances you have of that. So I would have just rather seen it get inset. That's it. Because then nothing would have been in the path sliding for it to hit. But other than that, that's really the only two real issues. I could complain about this type of finish. But it kind of has a little bit of a stone washness to it, which I do like. I'm not a fan of bead blast, but this is kind of like a bead blasted stone wash, which I'm happier with. So I'm not going to complain about that, but I don't like the regular bead blast that I've seen on some other models. This one is slightly different though. It has more stone wash to it. So the reason why I don't like the bead blast is because it can be susceptible to corrosion. Now with this finish, that I don't think will be an issue because, you know, it's good. So that's really it. That's all the bad. Let's check it out next to a couple other models. Here is the Kooby Raven, another knife I'm really liking from Kubey, and you can see the size difference is pretty big. Awesome knife. I'm going to link it below. The Kubey Carve, another knife. I'm going to link all these below, guys, and use my links, man. If you're going to get one of these, please use the links. You can see the Kubey Carve is slightly longer than the Nova. Or the Noble. I call it the Nova. The Noble. And by the way, Big Red was the one who named this. There was a poll on Instagram by Kubey. asking what should they name this knife, and a bunch of people answered. I think we even threw in a name, and Big Red, he was the one that said the Noble. So, and then another size comparison. Then we have the Kubey Darkness. This is going to be my next Kubey review, and you can see how this one is quite a bit bigger. This one has a recurved Tanto blade with a dual hollow grind, which I really like. Really good action on this guy. Linked below. So there you guys go. Really good quality G10, good T8 hardware, reversible clip, you know, good steel, great action, great slicer, man. So a lot of great things here. Now, one thing I would have liked, or not would have liked, one thing I'd like to see, I think this would be awesome if they cut the flipper tab off, cut the G10 back just a little bit right here, and put a hole in here. If they put an ob-shaped hole, you know, just kind of like trace it around right there and make this thing a reverse flicker, oh man, you'd have a nice good finger spot right here, because the G10 would be brought back a little bit, and then the flipper tab would be knocked off. It'd be super comfortable, super slicey. I think that'd be a very popular knife, to be honest. I think that'd be very popular, especially with 2021 and what people are wanting from knives. Let me know down in the comments if you've gotten to this point what you think about that. All right, guys, I love you guys. Peace.